Have you ever noticed that people tend not to think about consequences, about cause-effect relationships? People are thinking if this, then that is not part of their process. They don't see the relationship between things. And so they don't see connections between their behaviors in the past and their present state, and or their actions in the past and now and their future state. And so they don't see the benefits of your care. They are very one-eyed about it. It's like, I've got this and I just want that to go and that's it. And they're not seeing relationships. So why don't we dive into that a little bit deeper? So come on over and join us with a video put together on this very subject. People have been conditioned not to think, especially when it comes to caring for their health. That they don't think logically. They don't think of a cause-effect relationship. They don't think deductively. In other words, if this, then that. If we extrapolate that out, they tend not to think about consequences. So this is endemic in society, and it's something that we have to deal with. It's if we can't see ourselves as a relationship that has effects and repercussions, then it makes it very, very difficult for us to really be able to serve people the best way possible. So if they can't see a connection between their behavior in the past, their present behaviors, and their future state and the present state, then it makes it very difficult for a person to grasp a lifestyle practice viewpoint. They see everything as an emergency, everything as an event, and things just have to be sorted out, cleaned up, and moved on. And they're not wanting to engage in that process. So there's a big gap between a recognition of their actions now and in the past and where they want to go in the future. So in this mix then, they tend not to see the benefits of your care. They tend not to see the value of chiropractic care, because the sixth principle of chiropractic is time. And it does take time for things to change. It takes time for an ecosystem to adjust and alter. So within that though, there's a simple way to get people thinking differently. And I wanted to go through that with you here today. Now, there's a way that we can use our whole brain logic, and it really revolves around 4 very simple questions. So a coaching client of ours, Joanne, used to give practice members long-winded lectures about the details of what she was doing with her people. The value of care, the impact on their life, and the importance of having kids under care and so forth. But you know what? She was really frustrated. She was doing her very best with people. She knew that she had a heap of value to offer people, but they just didn't seem to connect with it. Their eyes glazed over, they nod their head in agreement, and they're not making any changes. So when she started using these 4 simple questions, her practice shifted just like magic. People started putting 2 and 2 together. They started making sense of chiropractic care. They started extrapolating the ramifications of care. So let's just dive in and have a look at this. We'll go to the diagram here, which is the innate model, which is the foundation of all we do within Quest. Because there's 4 components of a brain, the front and the back sections of the brain, the right and the left sections of the brain, and very distinct functions within each of those. So all our coaching is around that, our process around that, businesses and practices are constructed around that. So the right frontal area here is about the forward-thinking areas of the brain that looks at what we can imagine. All right, so imagination is into the right forebrain. And with imagination, there's a question that gets this going. The question is, well, what happens if this happens? All right, so so what happens if this? All right, so whatever this happens to be, if this chiropractic thing can free up nerve system interference from brain through spine to the body, what happens? Imagine what would happen, and the person is in a state then of imagination. They're in a state of going into the future. And through deductive reasoning, if you could take some interference out of brain spine nerve system relationship, then imagine what can happen. The brain can think better, the body can respond better, the interaction of brain body experience can be better. The interaction with one's environment can be better. So in other words, the person will self-generate their viewpoint on the ramifications of what happens if this happens. So let's look at the quadrant 2 part. So this is the back part of the brain, and it has to do with the past, and it has to do with looking at the problems. We always pick out the damaging thing or the potentially damaging thing, because that becomes something of focus. So this is the problem part here. So when we ask questions of this part, then we're going to say, well, what won't happen if this happens, right? So what won't happen if we clear out or don't clear out these particular issues, right? So what will happen if this happens where we leave it? What would happen if we didn't get chiropractic care? What are the problems that can arise from that? And that person will automatically go into the problems of the past. Well, I get those headaches again. I get the back pain again. I get the digestive upsets again. I get cranky again. I get, my business would start to fall apart again. Whatever the past events were, this is where we would trigger that if we ask that type of question. Okay, let's have a look at the quadrant 3 part. Right, so the quadrant 3 part, the what around that is what won't happen right? So this is a same as the quadrant 2 part. What won't happen here if this doesn't happen? So if it doesn't happen, this part of the brain is all about doing. So what won't happen if this doesn't happen is that I won't get to do what I wanted to do. I won't get to enjoy my family. I won't get to run my business really well. I won't get to play the sports I love. So this is looking forward into the future. It's about the things that won't happen if this chiropractic thing doesn't happen. So, people can then from that, they extrapolate, well, I really enjoy the quality of life that I'm having through care. So if I don't keep doing the care, then chances are the quality of life is not going to be as good as it's been, or as I'd like it to be. So that then appeals to that part of the brain. If we look at the last part of the brain then, so, what happens if this doesn't happen? So what happens? So what happens if this doesn't happen? This is an area where we look at how can we reinvent this? What is it what action is needed to be taken? What else can we do? It's about doing something different. It's about reinventing. So what happens if this chiropractic thing doesn't happen? It's like what would have to happen there? Well, I'd have to reinvent my life. I'd have to do something different. I'd have to go into a different profession. I'd have to do, sit at home. I wouldn't be able to go and do what I love to do. These are the things that if I don't get this care, then things won't happen. So this is an area there where we reinvent what's going on within the operations of this particular thing, such as chiropractic, and we're talking with the practice member. And if we appeal to this part, then they're going to have to create what happens if they don't get the care. What would they do? because they may have time, they may have money challenges and so forth. So what else could they do? How could they reinvent it? They would have to create something else, something different, and that may or may not be of benefit. But the point being is it gives them a chance to look at their life from a position of an internally generated phenomena rather than being told what to do. And this part of the brain does not like being told what to do. So this is creates vulnerability or requires vulnerability on your part when you start to entertain these questions with people, because it is relying on them to come up with their imagination, to look at the problems associated with, to look at what they have to do, what they could do, and then to reinvent themselves in another way. So have a look at this within your relationships with your practice members, because I know that when you do apply this, you'll spend less time and energy explaining and teaching and telling, and you'll get an opportunity there just to gently ask these questions and allow the person to go through their own level of understanding, their own process with it. And so you'll watch them change. Their behaviors will change because they're making sense of it. They're making sense of the upsides and downsides of your care, and let them make a decision about it. Don't try and make them think in a certain way. Let them drive the change. Let them be the change. Let them be in control, and then they will move towards you. So it's a very, very simple little skill, but it's so empowering and so impactful. So if you'd like to have a quick chat to me about this or any other aspects of growing your practice, then click on the clarity call down the bottom, and we can help you clean up some of your communication with your practice members, and you will definitely feel the change as a result.